great to be back at Mobile World Congress. It's been a little while for me, but always been sort of part of the hot things going on in wireless and the cellular community. Obviously way back in the day, going to digital cellular, wireless internet revolutions, smartphone revolution, and multimedia on the phone, all the kind of things that got built into the phone. And now this is another new feature that's going into the phone to have the satellite connectivity. But it isn't like kind of came to this fresh when I came to Globalstar after I left Qualcomm, did a startup on terrestrial cellular technology, which you can go see at our booth. But you know, we've been involved in satellites for a long time. Obviously, you know, it's all started as science fiction in 1945 with Arthur C. Clarke and Sputnik, we all know about, in '57. But sort of our involvement dates back, you know, we did video cipher for HBO, so satellite TV back in '86. '88 we did Omnitrax, which was long-haul truck messaging to long-haul truckers. That actually was pre-GPS, included satellite navigation system doing ranging off of multiple satellites to the trucks. Obviously GPS then launches in '93, and the story there that's kind of funny is CDMA terminals, or sorry, base stations use GPS to synchronize the base stations, and we were doing one of our first demos, very high profile demo in New York, and a GPS satellite came up over the horizon with its timing wasn't working and threw off the base stations, and my father had to stand up for about an hour and a half and wave his hands. Fortunately, he had been a college professor, so he could do that, but the GPS almost took down CDMA back in the day. Globalstar dates back to '98. That was when the kind of the first calls over the satellite system were done. That was a Qualcomm Around joint venture back then. So I was running the handset business back then at Qualcomm, and helped build some of the first satellite terminals that were used for voice and data services back then. In 2019, I was Richard Branson and Greg Weiler and I sort of kicked off the OneWeb development, and Qualcomm did a bunch of the OneWeb development over time. Then obviously now at Globalstar, sort of September 2024, with our wholesale partner, kind of launched direct to cell. And now we're on to kind of what's next. Like all these capabilities have been built up over time. Now we have this ability to have a big economy built, a big ecosystem built around satellite capabilities, and we're focused at Globalstar on certain aspects of that, because you know the kind of the way the network was built. And so to start off at the bottom, you know, we have spectrum that's global. We don't have to worry about border issues that were discussed. We don't have to worry about fine-tuning where the beam patterns are. So we got away with the very small constellation of satellites to have global coverage and to launch the service, and we've had that for 30 years now. Obviously having a LEO constellation, we all know the benefits of that in terms of latency, but it also affects cost, size, and power of the terminals, which then, you know, leads to the kinds of applications. It increases the kinds of applications that you can run. You know, the architecture of the system, which was one of the things that attracted me, it's bent pipe. And what that means is that it is a platform by which we can add new innovative technologies pretty much continuously. We've had a bunch of partnerships where people will come to our test bed in Clifton, Texas, and they will just bring their demodulation equipment and their transceivers, and we just hook it up to the system, and in a matter of days people are up and running with the new technology. And that was certainly one of the things that led to the wholesale business that we have, but it also has led to a government business that we're growing as well, and I think it will lead as we go forward into other opportunities with other partners. You know, we've been selling up until now consumer retail devices. As these capabilities get integrated into the smartphone, it's not so clear where that market will go. Having been involved in integration of a lot of capabilities into smartphones, we see that the standalone device business gets affected, sometimes goes away, but often there's still a niche market for a standalone device that's more tailored, and so we're kind of watching to see how that goes. But obviously the IoT business is the one that we think there's a lot of growth, and that has been growing for us so far. And that is a lot of different applications, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But the key there, and it's a lesson I learned at Qualcomm, was when you try and serve a deep vertical, it's really, you can fool yourself by saying, oh, well, I know this vertical and I want to go to this one and this one and this one, I think they're adjacent. But a lot of times the things that you think from outside the vertical as being the critical pain points aren't. Omnitrax, we thought that we were launching Omnitrax to allow dispatchers to shift trucks as they were out to get new loads while they're out on the road. And what actually sold Omnitrax was that it kept the truck from having to go into a truck stop and talk to the dispatcher on the phone. And most accidents happen in a truck stop. And so the insurance went down for the trucking companies, and that's what sold Omnitrax. And we thought, oh, okay, we're going to go to something next to Omnitrax. We're going to service construction equipment. We didn't know what we were doing. That business failed. So having resellers and having partners that really understand the deep verticals are super important, and we have built a group like that. I would say that's one of the key things for IoT going forward. And then the applications that we're doing now range from things like tracking animals in Mongolia, horses in Mongolia, or sheep in Scandinavia, or kind of what you would think of as sort of low value things, but require something small, low power, obviously very low cost as well, and then up to drones and autonomous vehicles and looking at various assets that are distributed out in the field. And then that then enables, as we put more compute on the edge, to do things like AI monitoring and alerting over the kind of thin route that we have to transmit back to a central location, then say, okay, now give me more information and so forth. So better monitoring we're able to do. And so what happened actually when I came to Globalstar, we have two-way systems. We had the original duplex from Qualcomm that's actually still running. We have a Spot X, which is a two-way system that looks like a BlackBerry kind of thing. But from IoT standpoint, we were only doing one-way messaging. So 90% of the packets over the network are position locations. The rest of it's some kind of telemetry. And it's only last week that we actually now launched a two-way system for IoT. And so this is the module that runs it. There's a dev kit, and anybody who's interested, please come see us. We're definitely looking for partners to grow this. Obviously, it's a business that's been out there, but Globalstar has been able to make a business around one-way IoT, which you would think that was actually turning a bug into the feature, because in the old days, the very first satellites that came up, the transmitter on the satellite, on the S-band transmitter, stopped working. So they only had a return link. But when I came in, I realized that there's huge benefits to cost, size, power when you don't have a receiver in there. And now with this capability, now we're looking at other incremental applications, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But obviously the thing that everybody knows and sort of has been talking about Globalstar, and probably the reason why I'm here giving this closing speech, is direct to device market, which, as I said, kicked off. And the commercial services have been up there, and there's a question in the last panel of who has it now, and I suspect most of you in this room have it now, because hundreds of millions of people now have direct-to-cell capability for texting, and I think the price is pretty reasonable for it for those people. And so the question is, what's the business model that goes beyond solving the pain point of safety and security? we get that safety and security, that issue is solved for hundreds of millions of people right now. Now, is it that you want to send pictures back, videos back, voice back? You know, I don't necessarily believe that there's a huge market for Netflix in the mountains, you know, mobile broadband everywhere. I built a business at Qualcomm called MediaFlow, which was during the 3G time. We did a supplementary network that did video, like, you know, you had ESPN on and all various networks and cable channels and stuff. And limo drivers in Las Vegas bought it, and pretty much nobody else. And it was a supplemental cost on your cellular bill, and had to get priced at a certain place that was, you know, kind of the $15, $20 range, and it didn't work. And by the way, Globalstar and Iridium went bankrupt years ago trying to provide cellular services outside of cellular coverage, and cellular coverage has only gotten bigger. So I think our way that we look at it is that we know what the business model is for us, which is if you can reduce the replacement cycle of a large mass of devices, that generates a fairly large amount of money, but not so much that you can go build a mega constellation around it. Our constellation is 24 satellites plus an on-orbit spare. We've got 17 underway now, and then we have a next generation that's kind of 50 plus satellites, but it's not what I would call a mega. And obviously with OneWeb we did build a mega for fixed broadband. And in fact, GSMA did a study that said that 72% of people wouldn't pay any more than 5%, and this study was done before the safety and security pain point was already resolved. So the question is, what is the business model that will pay for this? I'm not saying that there isn't, but it isn't a proven business model today. And so we're very focused on what actually makes money, and I would say that's the right thing for the industry to focus on right now. And so, you know, for us, where we're focused a lot is on IoT, as I said, and asset tracking and monitoring is a key area that we're focused on. There's a real business there. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made there. And as AI gets deployed out into the landscape and you care about monitoring remote assets, but you want to do it in a fairly light touched way, not have to ship all the data from the sensors back to a central place to be processed. You know, I think satellite, a relatively thin route satellite connectivity is adequate and actually good. And then with two-way, you can go in and ask, okay, send me more information if it's needed. So, you know, I think the model for IoT is definitely a model that works. There are a number of us, a number of companies in the industry have been focused on it. I think the D2D market works, but it works, at least the business model we know today, is one around relatively small amounts of data. And I would say that for that, you know, Globalstar's gotten ourselves in a pretty good position because our constellation, which is the key issue for a satellite company, is being paid for by our wholesale business. And so as we add incremental services on top of that, the return on investment is almost infinite. There's not a lot of capex that has to go into it, and that's why we're very open for business to help build an ecosystem on top of this satellite connectivity. We have a lot of spectrum, as I said. We've got a long-term play because just got a 15-year renewal, and we have these new satellites that are going to be launched too. So if you're doing an IoT play, one of the things you care about is that you have a reliable partner that will be there for the long term, and we will be there for the long term. And it's the same spectrum, so it's single SKU around the world, and we've been doing this for a while. So that's, I think, the way that you want to win from space. It's the way that we're focused on it, and we're very much, as I've been in previous roles, focused on building an ecosystem here, and definitely think there's a lot of opportunity in non-terrestrial networks. I just think that we need to focus as an industry on what is actually the economically viable things to do and build the ecosystem around that. And with that, I will let you guys all go to lunch, but thanks very much for giving me the time to talk to you.